Joie Tyrrell from Newsday. Joey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing fantastic. So tell us about this story that you reported on.
Well, I reported on the vaping issue in public schools across Long Island, and this is an issue that's not just specific to Long Island, but it's also been a national issue as well. Mm-hmm. But a number of schools on Long Island have been having issues with students using these electronic cigarettes, which are very hard to detect on school property or on campuses, and they're quite concerned about it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so could you let our listeners know that don't necessarily know what a vape is? Is there a difference between vaping and e-cigarettes?
Well, the e-cigarette is the device, and the vaping is the action.
Okay.
And there's several different types of e-cigarettes. There's the type that they call a vape, which is a bigger device. But what the schools are very concerned about is this brand called a Juul, and that's spelled Juul, and that looks like a USB or like a flash drive that you use for your computer,
uh-huh.
And it's very small. It can be tucked into a sleeve of a student, and the student can actually raise their sleeve to their mouth, vape in, and then blow the vapor out into a sweatshirt or something in class, and educators have told me that has happened. So they're very concerned about these Juul devices because this is a new thing. I mean, when I went to a forum that was presented by the Suffolk County Department of Health, and they were saying when the issues of tobacco use came up, there were years and years and years of tobacco use that could be studied. Mm-hmm. But really, young people are the patient zero or the first users of these vapes, so we don't have years to look at what the health effects are.
And I don't know if I'm wrong or not. I mean, Joe, you can definitely correct me. The use of e-cigarettes is mainly used for people that have been smokers for a long time, and they want to stop it. They don't want the carcinogens in them. The e-cigarettes is just used as a replacement because of the nicotine. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's what they were created for, and that's what the initial marketing was for, according to experts, is that this was a way for adults to kick the habit of smoking tobacco. But what has happened, according to health experts and some educators that talked to Newsday for my story, is that there's been marketing to young people, especially with among the Juul type e-cigarettes, with flavors like creme brulee and mint and, clever packaging. And there was also a whole social marketing campaign that Juul has now stopped that they believe was appealed to young people. And the usage among young people has exploded, so much so that the FDA has actually given e-cigarette makers like Juul 60 days to prove that they're not marketing it to children, mm-hmm. or to young people, not technically children, though some of the health experts told Newsday that, they've seen the use of vapes even in middle schools, which starts 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And it became like a cool device. And what's concerned a number of the health experts that I talked to for my story is that there's been such great strides made against getting teenagers to kick the tobacco habit, and they're worried that there's going to be like a backslide, like this is going to be the habit now. Mm-hmm. And they don't know, the effects of these chemicals that are in these products.
Yeah, they don't know. I mean, I've heard from numerous people that you can get vapes that don't have any chemicals in them. That's just like water vapor. But to be honest with you, I don't even know what's in there. I mean, on my opinion, I'm totally against vaping. I'm not a vape person. I think it's horrible because it's pretty much has the nicotine in there, so I'm not an advocate for it. I'm kind of actually disgusted to hear that even middle schoolers are trying it. It's horrible. I mean, I'm looking at your story right now, and I saw a statistic here, and I'm going to read it for the listeners right now. A state health department survey released in May of 2017 showed the use of electronic nicotine delivery systems among those of high school age nearly doubled from 2014 to 2016, even as the number of cigarette smokers in that populace dropped to 84% from 2020 to 2016. So you're telling me people are vaping more than the typical cigarettes.
Yes, that's what the research shows. And one educator in the Patchogue-Medford School District told me that there's also like a cannabis oil that you can put in the vapes. So whenever they confiscate one, they send it to Suffolk Police for analysis to make sure that it's not being used for drug use. Mm-hmm. But they also said that they're very concerned. They're concerned, and they want to also offer the students support because, as one health expert also told me, is that they're concerned because it becomes like a cool secret behavior that they're doing, and there's a worry that, that would lead to other behaviors. That's another concern that they have. But it is exploding, and when you see the expert from Suffolk Health Department also, when she was speaking to a parent forum that I went to, said, it looks like they're using, with the jewel makers, technology, like that young people are very, very familiar with, that's also another way that they're marketing it to young people. Oh, it looks like a cool piece of technology, and you can make your own battery dry for it and things like that. And she was very thorough, and they even, I don't have the number, I wish I had it offhand, but Suffolk County even has a hotline for parents or residents to call in if they see somebody selling vapes or anything like that to anyone under the age of 21.
I mean, it's crazy because I think when e-cigarettes originally came out, they were like in the shape, I believe, of an actual cigarette, if I'm not mistaken. And now the shapes are just crazy because you mentioned earlier, Joey, they're in the shape of a USB drive, or they're in the shape of a pen, that kids can easily carry around with in their hand. And I'm going to speak from experience as since I'm a student here at Nassau Community College, I walk across the campus, I can see at least one person that's vaping it. Yeah. And they'll vape, and the smoke will just be all over in the air, and it can get into your face. I mean, and again, it's horrible because, it could, impair their judgment skills too as well, probably.
Well, it's also interesting, as one of the experts also told me for my story, is that there's a whole community on YouTube that makes shapes with the vapor that comes out of their mouth.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
And so it's like this underground cool thing. And the principal of Patchogue-Medford High School told me this is really new. This really exploded in the last year and a half, and they were kind of. And a number of districts are kind of reacting to this now, and they're sending home literature to parents. And after I wrote that story, I got emails from a couple of grandparents who said, we had no idea that this was even a thing. What I do find interesting is that there have been several steps taken at the state level and at the local level to try and quell the use among young people of vapes. And every parent I talked to, and every educator I talked to, and every anti-vaping group I talked to said, look, for adults, it's fine. That's fine. That's their choice. Maybe they're trying to kick the habit. That's fine. Right. But they're concerned about the young people using it and then getting addicted, and then it's a lifelong nicotine habit. They're concerned about that.
They're trying to prevent, people from smoking regular cigarettes, and this is pretty much the same thing. So you're really not going to solve any problems by having teenagers do this. And my next question is, what are school districts trying to do to crack down on this sort of issue? I looked through your story, and it says there's this device called the FlySense 2.5. Yes. What is that?
That's really interesting. There's a company based in Hauppauge that has created a detector that detects the chemicals or the vapor in the air. There are places in schools where you cannot put cameras. I mean, you could put cameras in the hallway or outside, but you cannot have cameras in locker rooms or school bathrooms, obviously, for privacy issues. Right. So they've created this detector, and it looks like, those like rectangular air fresheners that, that you see in commercial bathrooms. It looks like that. Like it looks like a smoke detector, and it's affixed to the ceiling. And when it was originally created to catch increased decibel levels if somebody was being bullied in a bathroom, and it sends a silent alert to a school official, either through an app or on a computer. So if you're in the principal's office, and it would send that signal, but the people in the bathroom wouldn't know that the signal was being sent. But they received so much feedback from schools that said, can you do this for vaping? Can you do this to detect, if students are vaping, and they went back to the drawing board and they created the FlySense 2.5. And the CEO of that company is Derek Peterson, and he said they've heard from more than 20 districts have ordered, more than 20 school systems across the country and Canada have ordered them, and they've even heard from parents who want to put them in their own home. And so it helps the schools realize find if somebody is partaking in a bathroom or in a locker room, where they don't have monitors or they don't have cameras. And the penalties can be stiff if you're caught. I mean, in Patchogue, Medford, it's 5 days automatic out-of-school suspension and a superintendent's hearing. So the schools I feel like a lot of the schools are taking this very seriously. Nassau County is also taking it seriously, as is Suffolk County. But Nassau just recently passed a legislation where you can't, if you're selling Juuls or any kind of flavored e-cigarettes, you have to keep them behind the counter, and you can't have, a display outside, that says, oh, we have, minty green Juuls or something like that. So that people kind of like, I don't know, I'm probably older than you, but there was a crackdown on tobacco advertising, and this kind of feels similar to that.
Right. Yeah, because I'm only 19 years old, so I barely remember that. Yeah. So what they're probably going to do is they're probably going to, let's say you go into a convenience store, are they going to store it in the back, where the Marlboros and the Patriots are? They're going to just lock it up? They're
going to store it in the back, that's what they're doing in Nassau County. Suffolk County, they both Nassau and Suffolk, you can't be under 20. You couldn't buy one. You have to be over 21 to buy it. And the governor also signed the legislation recently, I think in the past year or two, where adding electronic cigarettes to the no tobacco on school campuses rule. So they're kind of cracking down on this. But what's really going to be interesting is what the FDA does. If the FDA determines that Juul has been marketing to young people, there could be consequences for that company. And that company has responded and has changed its marketing approach. It has a whole big presentation on its website. But these are all recent moves. So it'll be interesting to see what the FDA, that deadline's coming up. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
So definitely call back, Joey. I would love to hear what you have for an update on the story. I'm very interested in this. So thank you for calling up, and thanks for giving us a lot of information on this.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right, that was Joie Tyrrell from Newsday.